Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Unlimited. Today, we are talking about creating your ideal day your way. Now, I was a little on the fence about calling it an ideal day because there is a lot of noise, shall we say, around the idea of creating an ideal day. There's plenty of books that you can read about how to set your day up for success, around how to structure your day and schedule your day. And there's just a lot of stuff out there. And there's also this story that we all have the same 24 hours. So you should be able to get the same amount done in each day if you just do it right. Well, that's a load of crap. Just going to say it. It is part of hustle culture. It is part of this push and do and being human doings instead of human beings and all of that. It's not true, basically. It's a way that we beat ourselves up and set expectations that are unreasonable for us as human beings that have emotions, that have life happen, that we're not machines. So our productivity being the getting stuff done kind of productivity will look different on different days. There are some days that are better for more reflective productivity than more getting stuff done productivity. It varies, and our amount of energy for getting things done varies as well. But what happens when we set up these expectations that are unreasonable is we then beat ourselves up. And when we beat ourselves up, it's like puncturing a tire so that the car runs even slower. It's this slow drain of energy so that we aren't as efficient. We aren't as effective because we're draining energy and we're getting pulled off course by the emotional charge of disappointment and of self-doubt and all of the other stuff that comes up with that. So what we're going to talk about in this episode is about setting the foundations to support you in being flexible around your day so that whatever day you're having, whatever's going on in your life, you can have the support systems in place to help you show up to that day and be the version of yourself that you want to be. I often say the best version of yourself, but that's going to look different every day too. So we're going to talk about the structure of goal setting and the importance of flexibility within that and how you create flexibility in that, the value of routine and why there are so many things around the importance of setting a routine, but how you can do that in a way that's supportive for you instead of draining for you, and assessing what you are holding in your life so that you can maximize your energy in engaging what is going on in your life and actually consciously choosing what you're holding and what you're going to let go of so that you are maximizing your time and setting up your day in a way that is supportive for you. And you can call that successful for you, but really it's about being supportive for you so that you can have the kind of day that you want to have as often as possible. Because there are going to be times where, I didn't choose to have this situation happen that triggered emotions that aren't really fun to have. But what can you do that supports you in navigating those days too, as well as maximizing the days that go really well and go more the way you planned and the more the way you wanted them to go? So without further ado, let's get started. Hey there, I'm Valerie Friedlander, Certified Life Business Alignment Coach, and this is Unlimited. This podcast bridges the individual and the societal, scientific and spiritual, positive and negative, nerdy and no, there's just a lot of nerdy. Come on board and let's unlock a life that's as badass as you are. Today, we are talking about your ideal day. And this is a topic that I've brought up about covering before. I know a lot of people talk about structuring your day. There are tons of books about setting yourself up for success with a particular morning routine or structuring your day in a particular way. Rhymes. So there's like a lot of information out there. I'm not a subscriber to any particular way to set yourself up. Like, I don't say you need to get up in the morning. If you're not into mornings and that would throw you way off your normal habits and routines that you already have in place, doing that can actually set you up for failure. And I don't say that because like you can't do that or it isn't helpful. I think it can be. There are certain things that are absolutely can be really awesome for the way you structure your brain and all of that. But when you have factors in your life that tend to throw you curveballs a lot, children, it can be a little bit tricky. And I've gotten this from a lot of clients who have been like, I tried to get up early because I thought this would be helpful. Like, I think best in the morning, so I'm going to get up early. And then my kid got up early. Every time I try and start this new thing, something happens. Kid's homesick, day off of school, whatever it is, things happen. And I think that's important to recognize that life happens. What is it? I think it was John Lennon who said, life's what happens when you're making other plans. Now, does that mean that you should not make plans? No, it does not mean that. It means that it is important to have a system for being flexible built into your plans. And a lot of times people talk about a plan. If you've ever looked at anything plan related, and we can dive in a little bit to these pieces, but there's the goal, which is the big thing that you want to accomplish at the end. And maybe it's like losing 10 pounds, right? That's the goal. The goal is to lose 10 pounds. And then you're going to have your strategy. So your strategy is to exercise. That's going to be the strategy. Overall strategy is to exercise. And then you have your tactics, which are like your habits, your daily habits. So I'm going to go for a mile walk every day or every other day or whatever it is. So you set up that habit. Now, the fourth component that I don't hear talked about often enough, because it is the core component, it is something that's so helpful, especially when you have things that happen in life. And maybe it's not children, maybe it's a pet, maybe it is a job that is a little bit unpredictable. Whatever tends to happen in your life that you maybe didn't expect or gets you pulled away from what you want to accomplish. Being able to have flexibility within that structure is really important so that you don't get derailed from that structure. The other part of it is that you're not creating something that is too far away from what your current norms are. This is the other thing that happens a lot, is that people say, okay, I want to accomplish this thing, but they create a structure, set themselves up with habits that are so far away from what they normally do that they set themselves up for failure instead of success, because it stretches them too far out of their comfort zone, out of their norms, out of their current routines. Because we all have current routines, things that we do that maybe we don't think about why we do them, or they just are easy now because that's just what we do. So say you're not a morning person, and I tend to be like around when we put ourselves into boxes, like morning person, night person, but perhaps you're someone who tends to prefer to sleep in your current time. Maybe that'll change. But right now you are more of someone who stays up late and wakes up late. Perhaps that is you. Then saying that you're going to get up early to exercise and you aren't exercising at all now, that's going to be a lot harder for you to make that shift, because you're adding two or more components into the changes that you're going to make. So instead of going up one step, you're going up 2, 3 steps, which can be much more challenging. And when it is harder to do, it makes it much easier for any stressors, any changes, any surprises that happen in life to knock you off doing that. When it comes to creating a plan, knowing what you want is going to be the very first thing. So when I say what you want, I'm talking about how do you want to feel? So the three questions that I always ask people when we get started, we want to get a grounding in it. And these questions, the answers to these questions may change, but it's how do you want to feel? How do you want to experience life? So that's the inner part. How do you want to feel on the inside and experience life? How do you want to show up? So that's the way you act and the way you engage life. And what impact do you want to make? That is, how do you want to be received? Like, what's the ripple effect of that? And they all play together. They are all related. But when you can identify those three questions and really answer those questions, that sets a groundwork, like the foundational parts for creating a plan and creating an ideal day. So when you are creating a plan, you might look at that goal that you want and how you'll feel when you achieve that goal. And that can help you identify how do you want to experience life. Because usually we want things because of the way we think we'll feel when we have them, the way we think we'll experience life when we have them. The thing is that when we think that we are only going to experience life once that thing happens, it moves our power outside of ourselves because you can't control outside of you. You can only control yourself. So as soon as it's like, well, I can't feel that way until this happens, then you can't feel that way because you're always going to be chasing because that feeling is outside of you. So you want to be able to bring it inward. What would I do if I felt that way? If I already felt that way, and you may not already feel that way, and that's okay. But if I did, right? If I already felt that way, what would I do? And this is actually how I recommend setting up those plans, those strategies overall. So your goal, because you may find that when you get that goal, it didn't actually create the feeling you wanted, right? It's that idea of chasing happiness. Like, oh, once she realized that her happiness was inside of herself, then because maybe you get that thing, but if that thing was thought to hold your happiness, it actually doesn't because it's inside. So you're always going to be chasing it. So knowing that how you want to feel, then you can create the habits and the plan to be aligned with the feeling you want to have, which makes it easier to follow through on the things you say you want to do. So going back to that idea of losing 10 pounds, right? And it could be making $10,000. Whatever goal you want to put in there. And actually, if you have a goal that you are wanting to achieve, that you have in mind, that you're actively working towards, I would love to hear it. So drop me a message and let me know what that is, because I always love hearing what people are striving for, because that's exciting. And so it's not to say don't have something that you don't have yet, like just be happy where you are, just find contentment here. No, it's about taking action that's in alignment with the feeling you want to have. And that's like, if you imagine a donkey with a carrot dangling in front of it, if the carrot is always dangling in front of it and it never gets that carrot, it's going to eventually die of starvation. So if you can find ways to munch the carrot while you walk along, like while you also have a carrot in front of you, so you have that motivation to take action because it's an inner motivation instead of an external motivation solely. Right? That this thing that you want to have, you're creating an alignment with it. So you want to lose the 10 pounds. Well, why do you want to lose the 10 pounds? Well, I want to feel strong and confident in my body. Okay, cool. Maybe you want to make the $10,000 so that you can feel secure and able to do what you are passionate about. So you want to feel secure and passionate. Okay. So what would you do? What actions would you take if you already felt that way? So this is how you build an alignment with those things. So if and I've seen this before with clients where they built something where they're like, oh, I'm going to go jogging every other day till I lose 10 pounds. Well, if you don't like to jog and it emphasizes how you don't feel strong because you're always out of breath and you feel down about yourself when you're done jogging, then that's not going to be something you're going to sustain. You're not going to keep doing it. But if you're like, oh, well, I want to feel strong and confident in my body. And if I felt strong and confident in my body, I would do stretching and then work with somebody to find exercises that build my capacity. So maybe instead of jogging, I'm going to walk for a mile, or I'm going to go swim because I love being in the water. And I'm going to build up some of that strength. I'm going to start connecting to my body. I'm going to say affirmations in the mirror every day to encourage myself instead of like beating yourself and whipping yourself to do the thing to get where you think you will feel strong and confident in your body. No, build the strong and confident in the now. Every stepping stone that moves you closer to that thing that you want, if it's built in alignment, then you're more likely to get there. You're more likely to keep going. It's more likely to be sustainable. Okay. And when something happens, like a curveball, so say you've decided to go walk every day for half an hour and it's pouring, so you can't go walk. Instead of going, I can't walk, you're like, no, I love this body. I feel strong and confident. So I'm going to do a yoga video. Or I'm going to give it some really tasty food and give it a pat on the back for the amount of work it's already done for me or whatever. You're going to still continue that connection, continue that work because you're checking in with the actual goal, the thing that you actually want. So how does this pertain to creating your ideal day? I don't subscribe to those hard structured days. As I mentioned, like this is the miracle way of doing things so that you are set up for success. What I say is to start with how you want to experience your life. How do you want to experience your day? And what helps you do that? What are those core things that help you show up that way? So maybe it is, I want to be centered. We can't be calm all the time. That's unrealistic. But maybe I want to be calm. Overall, I want to be calm. So calm and centered. Present. Like, what would that do for me? Well, I'd be present. I would be focused. Okay. So what helps me be most focused? Well, if I get up first thing in the morning and meditate, that's awesome. I love getting up and meditating and going for a walk. So that was my routine for a while before COVID hit. It was like, get up. I would walk with my kids to the train and I would sit by the lake and meditate. And that's been a lot harder since COVID. Actually, gave this analogy the other day. I'm like, I kind of feel like when COVID hit, it was like this tornado came and picked up all of my life papers and threw them in the air and swirled them around. And I was kind of living like I was grabbing at the papers and, putting out fires all the time. I was just like, what's in front of me? Do the next thing, do the next thing. And in a lot of ways, that's survival mode. That can be helpful. Like, we need to go through that when a crisis happens, when a trauma occurs. That's a normal response. What I realized is that we've actually settled, like we have some routines, but they weren't consciously chosen routines in a lot of ways. They were just automatic, like based on putting out the fires. And I'm still acting like I'm putting out fires all the time. So instead of going, oh, the papers have actually settled on the ground and maybe a breeze moves them around a little bit, I'm still acting like they're all over the place. And I'm just grabbing here and there instead of going, okay, let's gather the papers up and take a look at them and decide what ones I want to let go of and what ones I might want to add and what papers I actually have here right now and all of that. Being able to take a moment to go, How do I want to experience my day? Well, I want to be calm and centered. This is what I did previously, and it worked well. I liked it. It brought me to my center and started my day off nicely. Well, maybe that doesn't work as well anymore. But I could get up in the morning and take a deep breath before I pick up my phone or look at, like get woken up by the kids or just jump up and start cooking breakfast or whatever it is. Pause. I wake up in the morning and I pause and I take a deep breath. I feel my feet on the floor. And maybe it's not a 15-minute meditation. Maybe it's just a getting present, getting in my body, being here. And instead of getting exercise the way I was used to, because the time structure for that doesn't work as well, I stretch and I just get, like it's part of getting in my body, getting present, being here in the now. And that's where I start. And maybe the next thing is I want to be centered and focused. Well, it's identifying the things that I want to accomplish in that day. Maybe it's just one primary thing because my time is squished. I don't have enough focused time. And there I said the thing. I don't have enough. It feels like that a lot. But this is where you get to define enough. Well, what is enough? I don't have as much as I would like. My kids need more attention than I am used to having to give them. I would much prefer them to be in school, and that's okay. I have emotions about that. I'm not loving that. I've never been someone who wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I really like my kids being able to go off to other people who I know and trust to take care of them and support them in their growth. But that's not an option right now. So I may need to take some time to grieve that. I definitely have taken a lot of time to grieve that. I hope that you're taking time to grieve the things, and reminder that grief is not linear. So it can pop up here and there in interesting ways. So being aware of that and able to give space to that, because that's another piece of being flexible. Sometimes we get triggered by something happens that triggers emotional response in us. And rather than going, nope, can't feel that, don't have time for it. If you've baked in some flexibility into your schedule, you can give yourself space for that. Because by structuring your day in a way where you have clarity over what you want, not just in the activities, but in the being and the experiencing of, then anytime something comes up, you can assess accordingly and go, how does this fit in this? How does this relate to what I said I wanted? Maybe it's too disruptive, and you say, that's going to need to be a different day. I'm going to say no to that because it does not fit in the space. It's going to pull me out of what I want my day to be like. Or maybe it's something that, okay, it's strong enough value. Like with my kids, my value of family is really high. Maybe I say yes to that. And notice I didn't say but, I said and. Yeah, I almost said but. Yes, and I'm going to give myself a little extra space for this, or I'm going to move this thing so that I know that it's not off the table. I didn't just ignore the thing for me or the thing for something else that's important to me, another value that I have. I didn't just go, well, that doesn't matter. I said, I'm going to specifically say this is going to happen. It's not gone. It's still here. And because I replaced it in today with this other thing for my kids, I'm going to make sure it happens here, and I'm going to plan accordingly so that it for sure does happen. So maybe it's talking to somebody else or planning to have my kids watch TV so that I have that time. I don't love putting them on screens, but that's where we're at, right? They're getting a lot more screen time. That way, you're strategically organizing based on the way you want to experience your day. The reason it helps to have some specific habits that are associated with what you create your day with. So the idea of having certain things you do in the morning to set up your day for success. is because our brains like patterns. And the more you're using your frontal cortex, the more energy you're using. So, especially if you're already stressed, if you already have a lot of things that you're thinking about, you are going to burn more energy. Your brain is burning more energy. So, anything that it can send into the more efficient parts of the brain, it will. And it wants to do that. And you actually help it by doing that, by saying, okay, I'm going to set up a routine. Now, when you first start a routine, when you first set up something new, it will take more energy. It is going to take more thought because it's not in your brain's autopilot yet. It's not its norm yet. So it's going to take more attention. So anything that you can simplify to make it easier for you to follow through on those things, the better. If you know you have more brain space, maybe your kids go to bed and you have a little bit more brain space, but you want to be able to do things in the morning, setting aside an outfit to wear for the next day can help, because then that's one thing that your brain doesn't have to do in the morning when you want it for other things. You've already set aside that outfit. You've already made that plan. So this is where like planning the night before can be helpful, because then you don't have to think in the morning. But if you prefer to do that kind of thinking in the morning and other kinds of thinking in the evening, then you might find it more beneficial to do it in the morning. So this is where it really just depends on you and the way you want to experience your day and what supports you in experiencing your day that way. I love the rhymes. So take a minute and look at those things. Look at like, what are the words that you would use to describe the way you want to experience life, the way you want to experience your day, and write those words down. Maybe they tie to values that you have. So maybe write those values down. One exercise that I love that I learned is to write out 5 values, write out 5 things that you spend the most time on during your day, and connect the dots and see where you're spending your energy. Are you spending your energy on things that honor values, like clearly honor values, or do you have to kind of do some jumping rope to find how they connect? Because if you're not honoring your top values, maybe you're honoring one and all the others are to the side, you're draining energy because part of you is feeling left out, is feeling neglected. And if you are spending time on things that don't attach to values, that don't connect to values clearly, then perhaps looking at what you could let go of. And maybe it's not something that you feel like you could let go of. It's probably tied to a value and you didn't realize it, because rarely do we do anything that's not tied to values, but it might be a fear-based value and not a conscious value, which can also drain your energy. So doing that little exercise can be really eye-opening to see where's your energy going, because time is energy. How much time you have and how really relates to how much energy you have. So how much time you have relates to how much energy you have. If you have been emotionally triggered, that's going to take more energy. So you're going to have less time. That's just how it is. So knowing that, you can make plans accordingly, because sometimes you don't know when you're going to be emotionally triggered. You can't plan that. That's one of those life things that happens. So being able to know, I want to be graceful in my experience of life. I want to be loving in my experience of life. Well, that may mean giving yourself that space for caring for yourself when you've had that emotional trigger, for sitting down and having an important conversation, to harnessing a teaching moment with a kid instead of going, you're wasting my time. You're taking up time. That's probably not how you want to show up. So being able to check in and then go, okay, here's where I'm moving the other thing, and giving yourself space for that. So that brings us to the other idea of you may find that an ideal day isn't as helpful as having an ideal week. These are the core things that I like to have in my week. And those may be doings in your week. And then your day is what supports who you're being. Because, we're human beings, not human doings. So being able to say, okay, what are those most important things? What helps me show up? And what do I want to try? Maybe you try something and it doesn't work so well. You can do something different. But if you know the goal, if you know the feeling that you want to accomplish and the way you want to show up, the way you want to experience life and the impact that you want to have, you can check in and go, how well is this experiment working? What would help it work better? What could I do differently that would support this experiment? So you can be curious instead of judgy. I was talking earlier about like that idea of how. How do I do it? That becomes overwhelming. Whereas a what question, especially if you have a clearly defined experiment, is much more easy to carry out. Now, I say easy. It's not necessarily easy, but it's clearer to carry out. And when it's clearer, it's easier, because if it's not clear, we usually won't take action on it because the vagueness of it makes it really hard to hold on to. And this has come up in a couple of the coaching sessions that I've done recently on the podcast. So take a look at that. Another exercise that I find helpful is the what's in my cup. So if you think about all of the things that you have on your plate right now, all the things that are going on in your mind, even, not just that you're actively doing, but that you're thinking about, list them all out. So maybe it's something that you're not getting to, but you really wanted to. I really wanted to paint my nails. I haven't done it yet. And every time I look at my hands, I think, dang it, when am I going to get to paint my nails? I don't know. I'm going with something simple. Right? But it could be big. It could be this project that you have or a book that you wanted to read. But whatever it is that's on your mind, or maybe it's things that you're doing. So the homeschooling stuff or doing some filing or whatever, any of those things, you just write it all out. Write a whole list of all of those things. And then in the next column, go through and say, how much energy are you spending on it? Not the amount of time you're spending, but the amount of energy that you are spending. Because remember, when you are spending energy, you are also spending time. So if you're spending energy thinking about something else while you're working on something, that's that lack of focus. And it's going to take more time to do the thing because part of your brain is wishing it was doing something else or thinking about something else or processing an emotional charge, and you're trying to do something. So it would actually be much more loving, not only efficient. I was about to say efficient, but like, it's not just efficient, it's loving for yourself, which also gives you more energy when you are taking care of yourself. Then you have more focus, which means you'll get things done faster, because the more focus you have, the faster you'll be able to do something. So again, it's back to that experience of life and what supports that. Giving yourself space to process emotions actually supports your ability to focus, because you need to be able to process that to be able to focus on the other things that you want to do. That second column, how much energy are you spending on that? Third column is how much energy do you want to be spending on that? Now, you may find that there is something that, going back to the book, we'll say, I want to read this book. I am spending, on a scale of 1 to 10, I am spending an 8 amount of energy on this book because I'm constantly thinking about how I need to read it. I really want to be spending a 4 and just read it. So it's not to say that the amount of energy that you're spending is higher because you want to do it. It's just energetically, where are you? And then the next column is, what would move you one step closer to the shift that you're looking for. So maybe you'll find things that like, actually, the energy I'm spending here is what I would like to be spending, but there's I would like to be doing it differently. So write that down. What's one thing you could be doing that's different? So, and then we'll do the book. What if the book is I'm spending a 5 amount of energy on it and I want to be spending a 5 on it, but it's actually showing up like I'm not actually doing the reading of it. I'm just thinking about it. So I don't want to shift that energy from a 5. What would it look like if I spent the energy? Like where else am I taking energy from? Like look at the whole list. I want to reduce energy here. So what if I took that reduction and moved it here so that instead I want to spend less time on my phone? What if I put the book in the bathroom? So instead of being on my phone in the bathroom, I'm reading some of that book. Or maybe I don't bring my phone into the bathroom and then I take that time to grab the book and bring it back into the bathroom to read because it's the only place people leave me alone. I don't know. Hashtag mom life, right? So anyway, just this is where when you actually have a list and you have an accounting of like where are things at, like what's going on here, then you can consciously adjust the amounts. Think of it as like, you're cooking your cauldron and you're adjusting the amounts that you're putting in because the potion is not bubbling the way it's supposed to. We went witchy instead of sciencey. So I hope that is helpful to you as you start to restructure your time. A lot of the ways that we've done things, it will be very easy as we shift out of where we've been to go back into what we had done, or even hold on to things that aren't serving us anymore. Like I said, I personally have felt like I'm still acting like all my papers are in the air, and realizing that actually I know I need to pause and acknowledge where they actually are and pick them up and give myself some space to assess them. So I think that the most important thing from this is recognizing that you deserve this space to make decisions. It's really hard to make conscious decisions when you are doing a million things, when you're in the doings, instead of allowing yourself to reconnect with who you're being and what it would take to be the person that you want to be. And recognize that some of those things are things that you don't need to do anymore. They become habits. They're habits of doings, not doings that actually matter to you, that actually support what you want. And those may be things that used to be supportive and no longer serve you. That happens a lot. We change, we grow, life changes, life happens. And what served us maybe before we had kids isn't going to be as supportive once we've had kids. The stuff that was supportive pre-COVID may not have served us during the stay-at-home time and may not be the things that serve us when we go back to being outside and around people again. We may choose to do things differently. So taking some time now to look at what's going on for you and what you want to create is a great time to look at that ideal day, but not in a let me regiment my day, which often sets us up for failure. But what supports me in my day? What is a design that will actually feed me being the person that I want to be and journeying through life the way I want to journey through life, and doing the things and focusing on the activities that are most important to me, that have the impact, that make the impact that I want to make. And a lot of times that starts with giving yourself a little bit more space and a little bit more grace. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that this has been helpful to you. If you've had any insights, anything that's jumped out at you, something that you're going to try or something that you're already doing that helps you create the day that you want to have, that helps you be the person that you want to be, drop me a note and let me know what that is. I love to hear from you. Absolutely love it. If there's something that you would like me to talk about that I didn't cover or that you would like to hear me go further into or whatever, let me know that too. You are welcome to drop me a comment, direct message me. I love your feedback. I love to hear from you. I love to offer what is supportive to you. If you are looking for direct support, because this is what I help people with in checking in and getting clear and going past the places that our brain is used to looking, because again, we tend to see what we are used to seeing. It's hard to find other options sometimes when we haven't had those available. We haven't done that before. We haven't connected those dots. That's one of the gifts that I have, is being able to hear you and connect dots that maybe you weren't seeing as connected, so that you can then take action that helps you move forward in a more loving and efficient and effective way towards the life that you want to have, being the person that you want to be, experiencing life the way you want to experience it. That's what I love to do, because you are here for a reason. You are doing something in the world. You want to change. You want to grow. You want to help the world. I want to help you do that. So please reach out if that is something you are looking for. I'm here for you. And I will see you all next time. Bye. Thanks for listening. I so appreciate you being here. If you got something out of today's episode, please share it. Leave me a review, take a screenshot, and post it on social with a shout out to me. Send it to a friend, or, all of the above. Want to hang out more? Join me on Instagram. Or better yet, get on my mailing list to make sure you don't miss out on anything. And remember, your possibilities are as unlimited as you are. Allow yourself to shine, my friend. The world needs your light. See you next time.